This week I was looking online for some inspiration for my sermon, and I found this comic that had two monks in it. And these monks were kind of the traditional caricature of a monk. They were both short and they had robes on, and they even had the hair, the bald head with a little ring of hair around just the fringe of their head. And one of the monks was carrying a paper bag with a W on it. And the other monk was saying that fasting did not mean eating fast food. And that just cracked me up, and I wish I could use it and put it on my video, but it made me think about fasting, because that's what this sermon's about. This is the last sermon in our series on the means of grace and how fasting is a means of grace. And so I got to thinking about that, and what is fasting, and why do we fast? And do we even have to fast? That's some of the big questions that we face, and we think about this. Because some people think that we shouldn't have to fast, that's not something that's an Old Testament thing, it's not a New Testament thing. Well, Jesus talks about that in the scripture that we're going to read today, and part of that scripture it's in Matthew 6, and I'm going to read 16 through 18. It says, "When you fast, do not look somber, as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show men they are fasting. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to men that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." So you notice Jesus said, "But when you fast." So Jesus is expecting that his followers would practice fasting. So that is something that's very appropriate for Christians to do. And it is because Jesus set the example. It wouldn't be in the scriptures if Jesus didn't want us to do that. Now, Jesus' practice a lot of times meant going to a private place and praying while he fasted. And so that's the example he set for us. Now, we don't have to go and pray and fast for 40 days like Jesus did. But one of the ways we can fast is the way that John Wesley did. And John Wesley would fast from sunup or sundown to sundown. So for a 24-hour period, and all he would do is drink water or tea. Then he would have a light meal at the end of the fast. And so that's something that's doable for us. And another way that we can do fasting is that we can give up a meal. We can give up, say, lunch, and spend that time fasting. And when we fast, we spend the time in prayer and contemplation, listening to God and feeling God's presence in our lives. And that's one of the ways that fasting is a means of grace, is because when we fast, we allow ourselves to be emptied, and we allow ourselves to focus on God and what God is doing in our lives. And it allows us to listen to God and listen for his direction and feel his presence. So fasting is an important thing to do, that we can fast again for a day, or we can fast for a meal, give up a meal for a period of time, and each day spend it praying. But there's some people that shouldn't fast, especially people with medical conditions like diabetes, that can be dangerous to fast. And so what you can do in that situation is you can give up something, give up your favorite food, something you like to eat a lot, and give that up. Or you can eat a meal that's just very simple, that provides the protein and the nutrients you need, but is very simple, whatever that means. And then you can feel that. You give something up, and you can feel yourself emptying yourself and allowing God to speak to you if you spend the time in prayer while you're doing that. And so it is something that's very valuable for Christians to do, and it's an important means of grace. And if you want to know more, be here at 10:30, and you'll be able to hear the rest of the sermon. Thank you, and God bless.